How do we find our way in this topsy-turvy world? In this Judaism of the uncertain future, how do we enter? The answer is often by sharing stories, because stories give us hope, they give us meaning, they give us direction for a way forward, and sometimes those stories don't even have to be true. This story didn't happen, but the afterword did, and I hope you enjoy it. This is a story about the great Yitzhak Perlman. Yitzhak Perlman, if you've ever heard him, is a maestro on the violin, just magnificent. And if you've ever seen him, you know that because of contracting polio when he was a child, he walks with the aid of 2 braces. And it can take him a while to get on stage and to move to his position, to sit down, to pick up his instrument, to tune it, and finally to begin the show. Well, the story, which didn't happen, was told about Yitzhak Perlman, that one night he was playing Carnegie Hall, New York City, with the Philharmonic Orchestra. Carnegie Hall was packed. Everybody sat at rapt attention, waiting to hear what Yitzhak would do. They couldn't believe they were about to hear him with the orchestra. How many hundreds, if not thousands of dollars had they spent in tickets to hear this wonderful show? And everybody applauded as Yitzhak came off the side, made his way up the few steps, gingerly with his braces, and took one step after another, until he got to the middle, where he took his seat, picked up his violin, gave it a quick tune, nodded to the conductor, and off they went. And they started to play, and everything was fine, everything was lovely, the music was building, when all of a sudden, in this story, which never happened, all of a sudden, there was a loud snap, and the music stopped. Because a string on Yitzhak's violin had snapped. And everybody knows that you cannot play exquisite classical music when you are missing one string on your violin. And those who were in the audience that night said that they expected that he would have to get up, put on his braces, walk to the end again, go down into the back room, get another violin or another string or something, and they expected it would take so much time, and they would just have to sit there and wait. But that, my friends, that's not what happened in this story. In this story, Yitzhak thought for a minute, and he paused, and you could see him thinking inside his head on stage. And when he finished thinking, he once again placed his violin in the right position, nodded to the conductor, and they began again. And as they began, everybody sat there amazed at what they were seeing, which was that Yitzhak was composing 3 steps ahead in his mind, and he was actually retuning the strings of the violin to make the right notes with one less string. And everybody who was there was just amazed, stunned. Nobody had ever seen anything like this. This was pure genius right in front of their eyes. And when he finished playing, the audience gave him the biggest standing ovation they could possibly do for at least 20 minutes. They're all on their feet, clapping, screaming, cheering for him, amazed at this performance. And finally, Yitzhak raised his hand to get them all to be quiet for a moment. And he looked at them and he said, "My friends, usually it's our job to make music with all that we have. Sometimes it's our job to make music with all that we have left. Now I love this story. And I've told this story, even though it never happened, I've told this story in hospital rooms for people who don't have that much time. And it's a beautiful story, even though it never happened. But last year, I was at a Klal Rabbis Without Borders retreat, and I told this very story. And my friend and colleague Ilan Babchuk got up and he said, I have to tell you the postscript to this story. He said, because years ago, this same story was told on Yom Kippur at a synagogue in Los Angeles by Rabbi Laura Geller. And Laura Geller tells the story, and everybody's emotional about this story. And sitting in the audience that night is someone you've heard of by the name of Steven Spielberg, who picks up his phone and calls Yitzchak and says, I can't believe you did that. And Yitzchak said, that story is nonsense. It never happened. A journalist made it up. Spielberg went back to Laura Geller and said, the story never happened. And she said, but it's such a good story, can I still tell it? To which Stephen asked Yitzchak, who said at that point, why not? My friends, usually it is our job to make music with all that we have. But let us continue to make music each and every day with all that we have left. For when we all make music together, that is how we change the world. Thank you very much.